I want to respond to Lyrics of Dust. He had a really good question on my recent change of heart. So, I understand why you don't understand. Let's put it that way. And I think the most important thing to say is that I'm probably not going to make you fully understand. And the reason why I'm not going to make you fully understand is because we're making videos on YouTube trying to explain ourselves, and we're not having a conversation, face-to-face conversation. Which, if you want to have a face-to-face conversation, I'm sure that I can get my phone number to you somehow, so that we can have that conversation. And you might be like, no, that's not necessary. But and it wouldn't be a conversation where I was trying to convert you, by the way. It would just be a conversation where it's like, talk for an hour or two or whatever, to just pick my brain to find out exactly why I feel like I'm coming back into the fold of my previous held beliefs. Let me turn down the AC because the AC is a little bit louder. So I was raised in a Christian church, and it was kind of a crazy church. It was a denomination called Assembly of God Pentecostal, which was what they consider to be a charismatic church. Charismatic basically means that you have different doctrines within the religion of Christianity. One of the doctrines is like the signs and wonders, sort of miracles, kind of stuff, where people like Benny Hinn and other so-called faith healers who believe that all the things that happened in the Bible 2,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, whatever, the miraculous kind of stuff, Jesus turning water into wine, not only Jesus doing miracles, but also the apostles of Jesus also doing miracles. Peter, Paul, Timothy, James, Matthew, Mark, Luke, Andrew, Thomas, the apostles that were with Jesus back in the day, performing miracles and healing people. Literally, like somebody who is blind and everybody knows that he's blind. Like if your uncle was blind, you know that your uncle's not faking. And then Jesus comes to town, or Peter or Paul comes to town, and it's like, holy shit. This guy just laid hands on my uncle, and now my uncle can see. Like, oh my God. Like, this is like a legit miracle. Whereas a miracle that you might be skeptical of would be like somebody who claims to be blind and you don't really know that guy, and then he goes up on stage and somebody touches his eyes and he goes, oh, I can see. Well, the first thing you'd be thinking of was, well, like the guy could probably see from the get-go, and it's just a dog and pony show, just trying to get my money. Whereas, supposedly the miracles that happened back in Jesus' time were, legit miracles, where people knew that this guy had broken legs because he hadn't walked in 20 years, or he was blind because he was... Anyway, I don't want to belabor that point, but so there's different sects of the church that think that the miracles stopped when all the apostles died. And there's certain sects of the church that believe that the miracles continue to this day, and there's people who are anointed who can still perform these miracles. I happen to be of the camp that miracles do not happen like that. Like that there's no anointed preachers left on this planet right now who can perform such miracles, and that all the guys that are out there right now that are supposedly performing miracles, they're all charlatans. Benny Hinn being one of them. Just But, there's a lot of them out there who, they're speaking in tongues and it's all gibberish and it's all, like, it's all bullshit. Like, it's not even, like, real language that they're speaking. And, their Benny Hinn is laying hands on people and the guy's like, oh, I was blind and now I can see. And then later on you realize that guy just got caught up in his emotions and he really couldn't see. He thought he could see, but he can't. Or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So I was raised to believe in the charismatic movement, and that really fucked me up. I was raised to believe that speaking in tongues was a legit thing. I remember being a kid, I think maybe second grade, maybe third grade. I don't know. I was about 7, 8, 9 years old, whatever. And I went to a youth group service, and these kids who were leading the youth group, they weren't really that old or mature. They were like 15, 16 years old. They pulled me into a closet, like a dark closet, and they were like, okay, Shafe, start speaking in tongues. And I was like, I don't know how. And they're like, just say anything that comes to your mind. And I was like, okay. Shama lama laka balaka maka laka balaka lakem. And they're like, yeah, you're doing it. Good. Keep doing it. And I was like, okay, and I was just like speaking all this gibberish, and they were encouraging me in that. And they were like, the Holy Spirit is speaking through you. And that kind of stuff, like the magical, mystical kind of shit, when it's all in your mind and it's not really happening, but you think it's happening, and you're imagining it's happening, but it's not really happening. And then your mom tells you stuff that, ends up not being correct. And, I was raised in a name it, claim it type of a religion where it's like, there's two ways that you can get an A on a test in school. You can either study your ass off and do your homework and do all the assignments and learn the material and get an A, or you don't have to do anything at all and you just pray for an A the night before the test. Well, I was in the pray for an A camp. That's the camp that I was in. In other words, everything was just a miracle. Just expect a miracle. Just expect a miracle. Expect a miracle with everything. Just expect a miracle. Everything. And it took me a long time to realize that was a bunch of bullshit. And what I did was I threw the baby out with the bathwater. I said all of Christianity is just complete and utter bullshit. When really, that wasn't the case. What was the case was I got some bad theology. It's like people who maybe somebody moves from California to Michigan and they have a bad experience in Michigan and they say, I can't stand the whole state of Michigan. When really, your opinion of the entire state of Michigan is just based on something that you experienced in downtown Detroit with some thugs or whatever. Or, you just have people that say, I don't like black people. Oh, why not? Well, because, I got mugged by a black guy in downtown Chicago, when I was in college. Okay. Well, you're making broad generalizations and you're saying, like, all black people are like this, and when they're not. It's just that particular guy who mugged you happened to be black, and so you're kind of making generalizations. And so I couldn't stand Christianity. I thought Christianity held me back. I thought Christianity ruined my life, basically. I thought a big reason why I was where I was in life is because I was afraid to take risks that I should have taken. But Christianity held me back, and it kept me from taking certain risks, and kept me from going out and experimenting with certain things and doing this and doing that. Whereas that actually, I'm coming to realize that wasn't really true. I'm coming to realize now, the older older I get, and the more I see the friends that I had in high school and college and all that, seeing the way that their lives turned out, and these are people that were completely godless, who grew up in a home that rejected God or just never really acknowledged God. I mean, some of them are just extraordinarily miserable people now. They're divorced, they're on drugs, they're bankrupt, their kids don't talk to them. They got sexually transmitted diseases. They got, like some of them, like their lives are just in shambles. I mean, their lives are just completely in shambles. Not all of them, but some of them. And I look at that situation and I say, you know what? It's probably good that I didn't try cocaine in college, because look what happened to my friend John. Look what happened to my friend Chris. Look what happened to my friend Eric. His own kids won't talk to him. He's a fucking addict. He's a piece of shit now. So maybe, just maybe, yeah, I didn't lead the most exciting life back then, but I was really sheltered from a lot of the things that could have harmed me. And I'll go back to what I hear Snedmeister say all the time. Or I've heard him say it more than once. He says, I reserve the right to change my mind whenever I want to, when new evidence presents itself. And I do believe that you can go throughout your entire life. You can be a Christian, and then you can be an agnostic, and then you can be an atheist, and then you can become a Buddhist, and then you can become a Muslim, and then you can go back to being an atheist, and then you can come full circle and become a Christian again. I think maybe what's upsetting you a little bit is that I'm a flip-flopper. But I reserve the right to be a flip-flopper, because I'm not a politician. You can't hold me to something I said yesterday or last week or last month or last year or last decade. You can't hold me to any of that stuff, because I'm an imperfect human being who has a flawed outlook on life. So you can even apply that same principle to right now, and you can say, okay, Shafe, well then maybe what you're experiencing right now is a bunch of bullshit. There you go. You're exactly right. I could be wrong. I'm not saying that I have the end-all, be-all, absolute truth, but I'm saying that I'm starting to look at things differently, and I'm starting to agree with a lot of the things that I was raised with, but I'm rejecting some of the things that I was raised with, but I'm agreeing with some of the things that I was raised with, and I'm going back and I'm incorporating certain things that I was raised with, and I'm starting to recognize that I was saved from a lot of bad things from happening in my life that actually happened to some of my friends and some of my relatives who didn't apply the same principles that I applied. And at the time when I was younger, it seemed like I was missing out. It seemed like I was missing out on some of the parties and some of the good times and some of the sex and some of the drugs and some of the this and some of the that. But now I look where I am and I'm like, you know what? It was worth it that I didn't engage in that shit. Because look at where some of my friends ended up who went down that road. Their lives got completely fucked up, and I was able to escape that tragedy because I didn't go down that road. And it seemed like at the time not going down that road ended up making me like a less well-rounded person or whatever. But really, it was a smart move that I didn't do some of those things. A lot of my friends, especially in college, saw me as a goody two-shoes because, I'm not saying that I never got drunk, but I didn't get drunk every weekend, You know how many friends I have now who are straight up alcoholics who used to get drunk every weekend in college? And their marriage completely fell apart because of their alcohol abuse. And their kids don't want to have anything to do with them. Some of them. Not all of them, but some of them. And I look back on those days and I'm like, you know what? It's probably a good thing that I didn't go out with them every weekend and get drunk. I'm starting to reflect on some of the decisions that I made when I was younger. I'm starting to reflect on those with a little bit more gratitude now. And I'm starting to understand that I went through some pain when I was younger with not being a part of the cool crowd so that I could come out a lot cleaner as an older person. I can tell you that I have no addictions in my life right now. The only thing that you might actually call an addiction is the prescription medication that I'm on. I'm perfectly fine to admit that I'm on some prescription medication, but it's nothing that's mind-altering as far as, I'm not addicted to pain pills or addicted to, any substances that are controlled. I mean, everything I take is over the counter for the most part. But I do rely on some of that stuff. Like, if I stop taking my medication and my supplements and my, vitamin B and vitamin D and vitamin C and fish oil and all that stuff, I would probably feel like shit if I didn't take that stuff. But that's healthy stuff, I'm not addicted to cocaine. I'm not addicted to heroin. I'm not addicted to marijuana. I'm not addicted to painkillers. I don't drink on a regular basis. I don't smoke cigarettes. I do the occasional edible with marijuana, but I do it recreationally. Just like I do the occasional drink, I said in a video a while ago, like, I bet you if Jesus was around right now doing his ministry, he'd probably turn tobacco into marijuana just like he turned water into wine, because it was socially acceptable for people to drink wine back then. Now it's socially acceptable for people to blaze up. So Jesus probably would turn tobacco into marijuana today. I interpret things a lot differently. I don't outright reject parts of the Bible and say, that whole book is just a bunch of nonsense and it doesn't fit with my worldview, so I'm gonna, I don't do that. Now, there are some people who do that. They say, well, I really like Jesus, I really like Christianity, but that whole being raised from the dead thing and, I think that's a bunch of bullshit. So I don't believe that, but I still call myself a Christian because I like the ideas that Jesus espoused. And so I call myself a Christian. Well, that's not a real Christian, But yeah, there was a period of time, a long period of time, and I've had discussions with Corey about this, because Corey was kind of disappointed in me as well, and I could tell that he was. Or maybe disappointed isn't a word. Maybe confused is more of a better way to put it. Because me and Corey used to talk about our beliefs all the time. And I used to tell him that Christians were full of shit. And that my mom was full of shit. And my brothers were full of shit. And the Bible was a bunch of shit. And religion in general was a bunch of shit. I did say that. I don't deny saying that. But what I do say is that as long as you're alive on this planet and you're breathing air and your heart is beating, you reserve the right to change your mind about anything. And you can't take that away from me. You can't take that ability away from me to come out and say, I believe in Jesus Christ as my personal Lord and Savior now. You can't take that right away from me. You might not like me saying that, but you can't take away my ability to do that. But what I want you guys to call me out on, if you ever see me doing this or feel like I'm doing this is what I want you guys to get mad at me about. I really do want you to get mad at me, call me out. If you feel like I'm being judgmental toward other people, I do want to know about that. If you feel like I'm trying to tell people that this is how you need to live your life and you're going to hell, and, you know, if I start pulling some holier than thou shit, which I really try not to do. And I say try not to do because I'm an imperfect person, and I know that I could be susceptible to do that. And there's a reason why there's verses in the Bible that tell us not to do that, because human beings are susceptible to being holier than thou. If you get the sense that I'm looking down at people, condescending to people, telling people that they're stupid for not believing in a God, I want you to tell me that. I want you to tell me if you think I'm doing that, because I don't want to do that. I don't want to be that guy, because I was there. And so if I'm going to sit there and literally judge people and tell them that they're stupid or foolish or blind or whatever I'm going to say, because they don't believe in God, or maybe they believe in God but they don't believe in Christ, or maybe they believe in Christ but they don't believe that He rose from the dead, or whatever it is. I was all those things before. So if I'm going to say that dude's an idiot, then what I'm basically saying is that I'm an idiot, or I at least was an idiot before. So if I'm pissing you off in that way, I really want to know about it. I do. I'm not kidding you. I really want you to call me out on it. I don't want to be that guy at all. But this is what I can tell you, man. If you want to know why I went back, it would take me a very long time to explain it to you, but if I can put it in a nutshell for you, I got juiced recently. You ever seen somebody juice an orange or a lemon or whatever, like where they gets put in a press and they squeeze the living shit out of that orange or that whatever it is, lemon, lime, whatever it is. Everything comes out of it. Everything that you're going to possibly get to come out of it comes out of it, whether it's juice or pulp or whatever it is. That happened to me recently. I went through a period of time, about a year, where I didn't want to live. I didn't want to live anymore. The only things keeping me alive were my two boys. I was ready to even tell my wife, like, well, honey, you're about to get an insurance policy. Well, actually, most insurance policies don't cover suicide, so I think the best they do for you on a life insurance policy, if you're a person who's covered commits suicide, is they don't pay out the full amount. They give you all the premiums back that you paid over the past 12 months. So whatever our life insurance premium is spent over the past 12 months. You know, my wife would get a check cut to her for a couple $1,000s, which would maybe pay for half of my casket or something. I didn't want to live anymore. My whole life was falling apart. My marriage was falling apart. My career was falling apart. I was on the brink of losing my job. I felt like I had no ability to do anything anymore. I felt like my confidence was completely gone, like my legs were basically chopped out from underneath me. I was basically a paraplegic in my own mind. I might as well have been a paraplegic because I couldn't motivate myself to do anything. I had applied for probably 60 jobs and I couldn't get a job. I was trying to be a salesman and I couldn't make any. Well, I don't want to say that I couldn't make any sales, but I wasn't making enough sales to survive. I was living on my savings, and luckily for me, I had a lot of savings to live on. I am a saver. I am a very conservative, fiscally conservative person. So for years and years, I was putting away probably a third of my paycheck. And I had a good amount of money. And once my career fell apart, I started drawing on my savings to pay my mortgage, to pay my auto insurance, to pay for gas, to pay for groceries, to pay for the electric bill. And I was losing thousands of dollars every month. And I was just doing simple math. And I was saying, okay, you know, no big deal. I have X number of months, you know, that I can live on this before I have to start dipping into my retirement. I'll find something. And then months and months would go by and I wouldn't find anything. And then I'd be like, oh shit, I'm getting closer to this whole thing fizzling out. And I had conversations with Corey about it even. And I'll tell you what, man, say what you want to say about Corey, but Corey can pick on people sometimes. He can be a pretty brutal guy when he doesn't like you. But if he likes you, that dude will bend over backwards and do just about anything for you. I shared with Corey that I was close to wanting to end my life, and that the only thing that was keeping me from wanting to kill myself was the fact that I didn't want to leave my children fatherless. And he was like, dude, he's like, that sucks, man. He's like, you know, he would send me text messages every once in a while just to like ask me how I was doing. Are you doing all right? He's like, look, man. He's like, bottom line is, if it comes down to the fact that you don't have any money, he's like, you move out to where I am, and I'll give you a job. And that's what he told me. And it wasn't like a job where I'd be answering phones for him, making $10 an hour. He would give me a job where I could make a substantial income and actually support my family. You know, like he was prepared to give me a good job. And that to me was, you know, as much as Corey espouses like non-religion, even atheism every once in a while, I said to myself, I said, I don't care what Corey believes in. I said, God put Corey in my life. Because I know some people in the church who won't even do that for me. And I hope Corey doesn't mind me sharing all this with you guys. But, you know, he was genuinely concerned about me. Because I've known Corey since, I've known him for about 12 years now. You know, Corey's like, dude, I've never seen you like this. Like, you've always been happy, like, relatively happy, successful. You know, you've always had money. You've always had a job. You know, if you were pissed off where you were at, you always found another job. And I was like, yeah, man, I know. I said, but there's something else going on right now. I don't know what the hell's going on. Like, I can't I can't land anywhere. Or like, I was getting job offers like, you can work at the FedEx fucking warehouse for $17 an hour and get 4 hours a day, 4 days a week, like 16 hours a week. That's not going to pay my bills. Like, my fucking mortgage payment is $2,500. I ain't even going to pay my mortgage, let alone groceries and everything else. Kids need new clothes and whatever else. I mean, it was really that bad. I'm not even kidding you. And I didn't understand what the hell was going on. So I was making a lot of videos at the time, and I was walking around my neighborhood, making videos, and I was getting broken down. Everything that I thought I had going for me in my life was getting taken away from me. Everything. It was just a matter of months before I had to put my house on the market. Or before I had to take cash out of my truck, because I own my truck free and clear right now. I was thinking about going to the dealership and seeing how much, hey, can you guys put a $10,000 loan on this truck so I can pay my mortgage for 4 months or whatever. My wife and I have a travel trailer, like a camper. We were going to sell that. Try to get $20,000 for that. I have gold and silver. I was going to sell that. And, you might be like, well, hey, man, at least you had that shit to sell. Well, yeah, exactly. But I was basically watching my life savings. Like, I was watching everything that I owned. I was ready to put everything on Craigslist. I'm like, why? So after I sell my house and sell this and sell that and sell this and sell all my shit, then what? Then what do I do? What are we going to do then? Move into an apartment in a shitty part of town? What am I going to do? I mean, it just seemed like there was no end in sight. And just walking around my neighborhood making videos and trying to not think about the shitty situation that I was in. And I don't know how to explain it other than to tell you in a period of, I don't know, a few weeks, I just felt like God came down and started speaking to me and was basically like, do I have your attention now, Shafe? I didn't have your attention before. Do I have it now? And I said, yeah, you have my attention. And it wasn't an audible voice. I didn't see a ghost. Jesus didn't appear before me. It was nothing like that. It was just me having a spiritual reawakening. And all of a sudden, all of the Bible verses that I memorized when I was a kid and when I was a young adult just kind of came rushing back into my head. Kind of like in the movie Karate Kid, where, you know, Ralph Macchio, he didn't understand, like, why am I learning all this shit? Like, why am I learning how to paint your house and sand your floor and wax your car and paint your fence and all this shit? It's like, none of this shit's paying off for me. None of this shit works. And then he wants to walk away. And then his karate teacher is like, shows him one day, like, all this stuff you've been practicing, I'm actually teaching you how to fight. You didn't know it, but now I'm going to show you how to put it into practice. And the stuff that I committed to memory when I was, like, decades ago from the Bible, it was still there. It was still in my brain. It basically kept me from killing myself. And I got the